The phone suddenly rang. I woke up in a hurry. The clock read 9 p.m.
しまった。定時連絡の時間を寝過ごした。
I picked up the receiver.
赤坂様、外線からお電話が入っておりますが、おつなぎしてもよろしいでしょうか。ご同僚の加納様と申されております。
I knew it. I didn't call in, so they had phoned me.
すみません。つないでください。
かしこまりました。おつなぎしますので、一度受話器を置いてお待ちください。
After I put down the receiver for a few seconds, the phone began to ring again.
はい、もしもし。赤坂です。
赤坂くん、加納です。お疲れ様。定時連絡がなかったので、こちらからかけました。そちらの状況はどう？
Leaving the lecture for later, my senior coworker got straight to the point.
今日は、ひなみ沢村へ実島に行きました。観光客を装うことで、村長以下の何人かの刺繍同盟の要人との接触に成功。
Other core members of the Guardian, such as the child of the current priest,
何も聞き出すには至りませんでしたが、
the like 7-year-old.
好印象を得て、明日以降へのつなぎを作ることができました。
そう。なかなか手際がいいね。赤坂くんのどこか初々しい感じが、むしろ武器になったのかもしれないね。まずは上守備ってところかな。
比較するほど経験がないので、上守備かはわかりませんが、とりあえず、今日のところは順調だと思います。
Hmm.
県警での情報や地元警察の公安での情報と照らしてどう？鬼ヶ淵刺繍同盟は白っぽい？
I still didn't know. I should have been able to say that immediately. I only had to say that, but for some reason I hesitated.
まだ調査中ですので、なんとも。
そう。なるべく早めにね。分かってると思うけど、今夜が終われば、誘拐から丸4日が経過する。いつが時間切れという明白な区切りはないけど、時間の経過は確実に我々の状況を不利にしていく。
Right, I keep forgetting about the subplot of the like minister's like grandson or whatever being kidnapped. Was it the minister? I've already forgotten. This happened last time as well on chapter 2 or subchapter 2 where I forgot who the hell it was and then they mentioned it shortly after. That doesn't matter.
分かってるよね。
ええ、分かっています。迅速に。だけれど、細心の注意で調査を続けます。
うん。くれぐれも気をつけてね。相手は暴力主義団体なんだから。油断すれば危険もあり得るからね。危険が迫ったらすぐに連絡を。その場合は地元公安に応援体制を入れられるようにするからね。
ありがとうございます。頑張ります。
他に赤坂くんの方から連絡はある？
Yeah, my cover's been blown. A 7-year-old saw right through me. I reported several bits of supplementary information, and at the very end, I decided to ask.
そちらの調査の進展はどうですか？
うん。こっちもみんな頑張ってるけど、なかなかはかどらないよ。何しろ、調べる団体が星の数だからね。
It reminds me of when we were playing through Valkyrie Profile, and when we were trying to show off like the worst ending. And anytime anytime we would meet with Freya, she would be like, "I'm afraid if things do not improve, I'm afraid we are doomed." And that's just like, this is the type of response that this guy is giving us.
だから、君の方の団体も白だと分かったらすぐに帰郷して、他の職員の応援に入ってもらいたいんだよ。室長は、鬼ヶ淵も洗っとけって言ってるけど、俺は鬼ヶ淵なんかの反ダム住民団体なんかは、今回の件、全く職員一人を一団体調べさせるためだけに出張させるのは、すごく痛いよ、ほんと。
It makes me cringe. Do you remember that like one of the main reasons why we got sent out here was because Hinamizawa has the current head of a Yakuza group. In this case, the S group. That's the main reason why they sent a Fed over to investigate. At this point, he was just complaining. He was telling me to stop taking time to enjoy my trip, to finish up and get back quick.
なるべく早めにケリをつけるようにします。
うん、よろしくね。じゃあ他に何もなければ切るよ。
はい。特にありません。
As we were ending our call, he scolded me thoroughly for being late with my regular report. After that, I hung up the phone and sprawled out on the bed. Or out on the bed. Come to think of it, I hadn't heard anything from Oishi. He was supposed to contact me about a time and place to meet with the informant tonight. I thought about getting angry with Oishi in retaliation for being scolded for forgetting my daily report. Come to think of it, though, Oishi didn't really say anything other than he was going to call tonight. Waiting for a phone call when you didn't know what time it was going to come was in itself rather difficult. Just when I thought that, the phone rang. I picked up the receiver in a hurry.
もしもし。
これはびっくりしました。赤坂さん、あなた受話器取るの早いですね。警官辞めても大企業の営業で十分飯が食えますよ。
Oi-san, we're married and expecting a kid. No, we are not.
まだ警官辞めた後のことなんか考えたこともありません。
そこまで過剰に反応されると面白いな。しかしいけないな。因果な商売ですし、今から考えても遅くないですよ。
Man.
遠慮いたしますので、本題に入ってください、大石さん。
そうですか。それは残念です。じゃあ老後の話は次の機会にでも。では本題。
Many of the executives of the Onigashiki Guardians had a lot of sway in the neighboring regions. Even in Okinomiya, there were a lot of people with relations in the village. That's why meeting in the Shishibone Market District, far from Okinomiya, was a matter of course. Oh, that scared me for a second. Hold on, was that like the alt art of Oisan? Let me check. No, it loaded this model with a black background for a second.
ちょっと迷いましたが、北口からの方が遠回りだけど道は分かりやすかったかもしれませんね。
いえ、遅れて申し訳ありませんでした。
夕飯はもう食べちゃいました？
ええ、済ませてあります。
じゃあお酒の飲めるお店に行きましょうか。洋酒派？日本酒派？女の子のいる店といない店はどっちがいいですかね？
Is he gonna take us to Angel Mort? He's like, oh, I'm gonna show you a place I love that's nearby.
お構いなく。勤務中は飲みませんので。
Hearing that, the man that Oishi had brought along bent backwards as he guffawed, clapping Oishi on the shoulder.
ねえ、初々しい人でしょ。その分ちょっぴりサービスしてあげてくださいよ。あのお金は全部彼のお財布から出てるんですからね。
The man that Oishi had brought seemed almost like a ticket scalper or a bookie. Even his appearance was dubious. Let me change the style and see if there's another sprite for him. And if there is, there's not one yet, so we'll see. The informant grinned deviously.
Oi, boss.
Let's see now. No. Oh, it looks so, like, this looks so fucking terrible, dude. Anyway.
お前旦那にいくら渡した？だいぶ途中でつまみ食いされてんぞ。
大石氏への仲介手数料も含めていますから、それも含んだ上です。
It seemed the informant had expected a more extravagant reaction on my part. When I responded matter-of-factly, he realized that I was an entirely different type of person than he was. But rather than putting a distance between us, it seemed that I had piqued his interest.
だから言ったでしょ。真面目な人なんです。でもね、赤坂さん、私たちのような職種の人間は豊富な社会経験がとても武器になるんですよ。
女の子がいてお酒が飲めるお店での経験がどう武器になるか疑問です。
The informant, unable to contain himself, clutched at his stomach as he guffawed, heedless of the people watching.
いやもう
Oh, lordy.
赤坂さんはいちいち察しがいいな。よっ、さすが高学歴。
大石さん、あなたどこかで飲んできましたね。酔っ払ってます。
オフタイムに飲んで何が悪いんですか？あなたは勤務中でも私はオフ。オフ。
Oishi, who was the sort that'd fool around to begin with, was in such a good mood that I couldn't figure out a way to deal with him. Completely different than me, who had come worried about getting every bit of information I could. Oishi-san, after taking so much money, you were supposed to get me information worth at least as much. I thought this, but then I realized that I was getting my information from the informant, so it didn't matter how drunk Oishi was. There was nothing I could complain about, but I still felt slightly riled up. Oishi and the informant, it was no doubt a fake name. Oishi and the informant, it was no doubt a fake name, but he introduced himself as Sato, led the way deeper and deeper into the back streets of the market district. Even though the market was bustling, a couple of turns off the main street, and you were in a desolate alleyway. Oishi started climbing a set of stairs on the side of a seedy building. There wasn't any sort of signage, so I couldn't tell if the place was open or if it was even a store at all.
安心してください。怪しい店じゃありませんよ。
Those words coming from Oishi's mouth had absolutely no credibility. Beyond the door was, thankfully, a typical Mahjong parlor. Okay, so we know what this place is like. Or we've seen this place before. That's for sure. Here's where one of the main busts was discussed in chapter 2. Near the end. I was relieved that it wasn't the sort of suspicious place I had to be on my guard about.
はい、いらっしゃい。あら、大石さん、お久しぶり。こっち入ります？すぐ開きますよ。
いいえ。今日はセットですからいいです。お、待たせましたね。
Mahjong is a game played with 4 people. It seemed that a middle-aged man who was going to be our 4th had already arrived and was waiting for us.
遅えぞクラウド。俺はもう消えろと思ってたんだから。
Oishi made an excuse for why he had taken so long. Eventually, realizing that I was a new face, the other man grew interested.
彼は赤坂さん。東京からはるばる出張されてきた将来有望な新人さんです。
坊主、お前麻雀はできんのか？
Oh god.
まあ、学生時代にそこそこに。
Sato and the old man cackled in unison. Their plot to sucker me out of my money was painfully obvious.
緊張続きの出張で疲れておいでだろうと思いましてね。一つ今夜は心の選択でもして差し上げましょうかと思いまして。
How nice of you, Oishi-san.
今更野暮なことを聞きますが、私たち警察官ですよね。
Are we betting money?
まあそれは一個なしで。なに、実際にはかけるわけじゃありませんよ。
Just a small amount of money for funsies, you know?
この後いいお店に遊びに行くときに誰が全員分を払うのか決めるだけですって。
Also, I don't think I mentioned it, but the music is really nice right now. I'll crank it up a little bit. It has a very PC 98 like style. like the type of jazz music or smooth jazz you would hear in a PC-98 like visual novel, or a game that's also about mahjong or gambling. Anyway.
遊びに行く？どんな店に遊びに行くんですか？
Without reservation, the three of them started suggesting places like cabaret, high-class clubs, and even brothels. At the very least, they were the type of places that you couldn't go with money, that was just for funsies.
私のお金は先日大石さんに根こそぎ預けて支払いは不可能ですし。
じゃあ坊主が勝てばいいじゃねえかよ。
True?
おめえが勝ったらこの雀荘の支払いはなしで、クラウドに仕事の話でも何でもすればいい。
No matter what happened, it seemed like they were intent on playing mahjong for free. I would have to fasten my resolve a bit. If I was going to be underestimated like this forever, it was going to get in the way of my work.
わかりました。では少しだけお付き合いします。私が勝ったらアフターの遊びは一切なしですぐに仕事の話に入ってもらいますからね。
Any of those dirty places.
いいですとも。
俺が勝ったらフラワーのブルーマーメイドに直行だからね。
おやっさんも好きだな。私はもちろん馴染みの店をはしごしまくりですよ。あっけみちゃん。佐藤さんはどうします？
私は静かに飲めるお店でいいですよ。
静かにバニーさんとでしょ。
Oh.
この間飲みに行った時、あんたバニーさんの尻尾を引っこ抜いちゃったでしょ。あれ結局弁償だったの？
マスターに縫製代とか言われて一本ドンペリ開けられたな。
What a lively table this was. Yeah, for reals. I mean, Oishi is... Well, I mean, they're all kind of drunk, it sounds. I could tell the other customers were glaring at us while we loudly continued our crude conversation. Speaking of which, the fact that they assumed I was the same... Sorry. Speaking of which, the fact that they assumed I was the same was a bit disheartening. Oishi had taken all the money I'd brought, so everything I had left was out of my own pocket. In addition, there wasn't that much left of that either. If I kept on hanging around him like this, through his goading, my wallet would disappear into the night. I had to somehow win and return the conversation to my job. But these people, no matter how you looked at it, were pretty good. Sorry, Yuki. This is also a new song. Hold on. Very interesting. It sounds a little bit like a remix of the that song that I really liked from chapter 1 and 2, like the one that they would play anytime there was a game.
そんじゃこれでリーチッと。
He's already in. Oh no. Well, the old man and Sato probably won't fall for this silly Richi. I wonder if Asakusa-kun will spit out what I need.
クラウドのリーチなんざどうせこの辺だろ。この辺なら通るだろ。それ。
Oh, the old man's pretty good. He's quietly trying to use one of my safe tiles to complete his hand, isn't he? It seems that Asakusa-kun has at least learned the ropes when it comes to guarding against someone's Richi. But that will be his downfall.
どうした坊主。サクッと切らねえかい。よくわからなかったらクラウドと同じもんを切ってりゃ安全だぞ。
Ooh, Asakusa-kun's really fretting over this one. It was glaringly obvious that he had a safe tile to discard, but he didn't want to throw it away because it would move him further from completing his hand. They're so nice when they're young and innocent. Come on, hurry up and throw out the kicker. If he gave me the winning tile, we'd be headed to an establishment where I could do with all sorts of licking and sucking. Huh? If he gives the old man his winning tile, then we'd be heading straight to the place with maids and bloomers.
これは通りますか?
He looked up as he hesitantly threw out a tile that was... Oh, too bad.
おいおい、危ねえパイだぞ。クラウド、通るのか。
いい、通りますよ。
It seems this time you were lucky. But as long as the round kept going, I could still win off the draw. But after that, Asakusa-kun managed to luckily avoid throwing any bad tiles, and somehow the round managed to end without anybody completing a hand.
天杯。
天杯。
当店
Sato-san had keenly anticipated that 2 players were in the Riichi and had decided to play it safe. What a cool-headed way of playing. Now, let's see what kind of hand did Asakusa-kun have. When the round ends, with nobody winning in Mahjong, anybody in Tenpai has to show their hand. But if you're not in Tenpai, you have no obligation to reveal it. Your average beginner would normally show their hand, even if they weren't in Tenpai, and start a commotion about how if this tile or that tile came, they would be in Tenpai. But he didn't. Being stingy.
どうだって坊主ちょっと見せてみ
Sato-san reached over to flip the hand that Asakusa-kun had casually placed face down.
なんじゃこりゃ
He was nowhere near Tenpai. Was Asakusa-kun totally bad at this after all? Right then, as the old man compared the tiles from Asakusa-kun's hand to the discard pool, a puzzled expression crossed his face.
坊主、おめえ、この辺りで張っとるだろ。どうして切った？
マンズの高いあたりが急に高騰しましたので抑えました。大石さんのリーチに対して安全性が高まったのにです。筋でさばけば無難なのにわざわざ抑えた方がいる。
おう、クラウドのテンパイなど鼻から論外。手は
相当高度な引っ掛けでなければ私の宝珠を期待したぬるめの手かと思って。それよりもダマで張ったあなたの方がとりあえずは問題でした。
いつテンパイしたのに気づいた？
この辺りですか。ノンタイムで4連続で切ってますよね。初めは食い替えかと思いましたが私をチラチラ見ていたので期待しているんだと気づきました。
Sakusa-kun, you...
赤坂さん、あんた麻雀始めてどのくらい？
高校から大学くらいまでの間しかやっていませんよ。さあ続けましょう。
Oh, no.
佐藤さんはテンパイしなかったから流れて次は私ですね。親。
Oh. It seems like Asakusa-kun is really aware of how the game flows. We thought we were just going to eat him alive, but it looks like this isn't going to be easy.
大石さん、想図が濃すいですね。
We get a portrait review? Or we get like a little CG review? Look at him. That's actually kind of what I pictured him like. Like just some kind of like smug dude. It's crazy.
回しますか。
この坊主。クラウド、降りるな。
あと3つ。いい牌が来ればな。佐藤さんはうまくいきそうです。
くそ食いたんで引きずり下ろすか。チーだ。
チーですか。じゃあすみません。それポンです。
Whoa now. Going to call 3 of a kind after he declared a straight? Trying to override and interfere?
坊主、おめえ、離れしとるな。
まさか私が生まれる前から打ってるような方々とは比べようもないですよ。あ、それです。ロン。
He just wins.
トイトイ赤赤トラさん。親ですからね。 ちょっぴり高いですよ。
くわっ
赤坂さんやるな。これは我々も本気を出さないとね。
本気のついでに展望も出してもらいましょうかね。私は眠いんで手っ取り早く終わらせます。
Asakusa-kun. This is somehow unreal. Before I could realize that there was an ominous cold air emitting from beneath Asakusa-kun's feet.
ぬるいですね。
And then we get another one. Another like another little CG portrait.
マンズのリャンウーパーが笑ってませんか？
I will say his fingers are drawn very weirdly.
坊主てめえ。
クラウド、お前差し込め。坊主の親、とっとと下ろすぞ。
悔しいですが、どうやらそうした方が賢明なようですね。
出た。ローだ。はいよドライチ。
すみませんね。頭っ鼻です。どう？ピンフ。
頭っぱねだ。小僧のくせに。
小僧。小僧が相手だと。バじゃああんた。その小僧
Oh my
に
god.
ってわけですね。面白いな。あんたら連中は決まって小僧だ坊主だって言うよ。
あ、赤坂君。
Akaska. I kept calling him Asakusa. That's my bad. Akaska.
赤坂君ですよね。
Kasaka-kun. Jeez.
なんだかムードが変わりまくりなんですがね。
私をかもって今晩はいいお酒を飲むおつもりだったんでしょうが、どうやら皆さんの当ては外れそうです。の単品3食赤1ドラ1。
おお。張ってやがったか。
だからあんたぬるいよ。いくらダマだからってこんなにぬるい3年なんだから読んでくれなくっちゃ。
Kasuga-kun chuckled as he rested his chin on his hands. Or in his hands. The pose was so fitting it was almost scary.
おい、クラウド。
Oh, and there's actually a new background we haven't seen. A bathroom sink. What about the CG or console? Oh, this is the one from the baseball chapter. But this one's different. I don't remember this one being in the baseball chapter. Anyway.
話がちげえぞ。初々しいカモがネギ背負ってきたって言ったのは誰だ。
いや誰でしょうね。
おいさ、まずいよ。このままじゃ負けるよマジで。
Kasuga-kun. For you to make me get serious. Looks like you really want to be milk dry. Ugh.
ポンポン。気前がいいですね。もう一回ポンです。
Kasuga-kun was almost singing at this point. The tiles he had opened were all pin tiles. You can't be serious. Are you really going for the flush?
ポン。
坊主。正気か。4つも晒したらおめえパイが1つだけじゃねえかよ。
そうですね。知ってます？短期待ちって一番読まれにくいらしいですよ。
バカかてめえ。そこまで染めて晒しといて今更出ると思うんじゃね
え。読めてますよ赤坂さん。それ均一でも本一でもないんでしょう。4つポンした時点で問い問いは成立してますからね。あんた今絶好の単独トップ。こいつは均一と見せかけで問い問いで食おうという挑発手でしょう。
そう思うならビンズ切ってみます？大石さんの牌の左5つ。さっきから 切り損ねてるピンズですよね。
Oh?
それを端から順に切ってみたらいいんじゃないですか？
You must be joking. Is he a Mahjong god? If not, he had to be the main character of a manga or something. Well, in this case, a visual novel. At that moment, the old man sent me a sign under the table. The message was simple and
ク
clear.
ラウドやれ叩き潰せ。
こんな若い子に様は好きじゃないんですがね。
あうここまで舐められて今さら引けるか。
もう知りませんよ。ではどうぞ。
行くぞ坊主。リーチだ。オープンで行くぞ。ピンズの一数値待ちだ。
Most likely, the tile that Akasuka-kun was waiting for was one of those tiles. With this, Akasuka-kun was no longer capable of winning the hand. When I drew from the wall, I switched out the tile. I switched out the tile that Akasuka-kun would draw. The tile that I put in was the one pin. One of the tiles that the old man was waiting on. Akasuka-kun discarded it a little while ago, so there was no threat of it being the one he needed.
おい、坊主の番だぜ。
I knew he was troubled that the tile he drew was the one pin. Of course, he couldn't discard it.
坊主分かってると思うがオープンリーチに振り込んだら100万払いだぜ。
言われるまでもありませんよ。
The tile that came from Akasuka-kun's hand was an honor tile. Whew, ain't that something? There's only one north wind tile left, isn't there? You were counting on a really rough wait, weren't you? But with this, Akasuka-kun's fate was decided.
カズ命拾いしたな。だが手配は1名だ。逃げ切れなくなることもあるんじゃねえのか。
やっぱりそういうことか。
Akasuka-kun glared at the old man with a discerning eye. This guy had pretty good instincts. Did he figure out we were cheating?
やめましょうよ、やっさん。赤坂君の方が2、3枚は上手です。
Do remember, we're playing as a Fed, so of course they're going to be good at Mahjong.
バルここまで来てやめられるか。次行け使わせちまえ。
The next tile Akasuka-kun would draw was the 7 pin. With that, it would be settled. No matter which one he discarded, he played right into the old man's hand. An unavoidable full payout. When I drew my tile, I sneakily swapped the Akasuka-san's. What? Akasuka-kun suddenly sneezed, collapsing the wall of tiles in front of him.
おいおい何やってんだ。
すみません。ついくしゃみをした拍子に山を崩しちゃって。バップ払いですね。親だから4000オールですか？それともバップは積み棒に？
Unable to hold back, I guffawed. Akasuka-kun, knowing he was going to be cornered a second time and unable to escape, he took the drastic measure of knocking over his own wall.
やるな坊主。100万払いをそういう手で防ぐとはな。ガッハハハハ。
大石さんもそんな見え見えの積み込みは勘弁してください。これが馬場なら今ので卓をひっくり返してたところですよ。
いえいえいえいえいえいえすみませんすみません。あなたを侮っていましたよ。あなたどうしてお強いじゃないですか。
正直に話さんかい。若い頃はだいぶ慣らしたんだろ。
早稲田高田の馬場あたりでだいぶ遊ばせてもらいました。ちょっと勝ちまくりすぎて馴染みの店に出禁を食らいまして、今の家内にだいぶ怒られて足を洗ったんです。
勝ちまくりすぎてあんた 当時はどのくらいの勝率でやってたの？
メンツにもよりましたが、歌舞伎町あたりで打つときはほぼ負けなしでした。特に相手があれ系の人の時は命かかってましたからね。
What kind of stakes were those? Did you have the Yakuza at your table? Or pro baseball players?
なんだクラウド、このタク、お前どっからこんなプロ雀士みたいなの引っ張ってきたんだ。もうやめだやめ。坊主、おめ降参降参。
ありがとうございます。光栄です。
Oh my god.
いやいや、しかし赤坂さん、あんた打つと性格変わるね。なんで就職なんかしたの？あんたならフリーで十分に飯食っていけるじゃない。
プロ雀士には腕と突きの両方が必要なんですよ。私には後者がありませんでしたから。
好きなんてその時の運不運だろ。あんたほどの腕があれば十分にいけると思うがな。
波の突きじゃダメなんですよ。勘したら3回に1回くらいはそのままカンドラが4つ乗ってここぞという時に狙ってリンシャンが引ける。そのくらいじゃないと。
赤坂君、そんなのが頻繁にできたらそれはもう超能力者ですよ。
いえ、イカ様でも超能力でもなく、そのくらいの打ち手は結構いるんですよ。新宿で知り合った泣くたびにドラが乗りまくる雀士なんか鬼のように強かったですし横浜で打ったプロなんかは当たり前のように一発で引き当ててましたからね。私にはああいう月がないんです。
What type of folks were those? They weren't named Ryu or Satoshi by any chance, right? Hold on. No, I'm thinking of Akagi, I think. Yeah, I'm thinking of Akagi. I don't remember. I'm not sure if this is gonna be if this is a reference to any like pro like Mahjong manga characters. If so, I don't I don't recognize them. Mainly because I don't delve too much into Mahjong myself. But anyway.
というわけで総合トップは私でよろしいですね。
I'm sure someone on YouTube will probably tell me later on.
へいへいへい、乾杯でございますよ。
負けた負けた。久しぶりに大負けだ。
しかし打ってる時の坊主気合入ってたな。結構怖かったぜ。
よく言われます。自分ではそんなに目つき変えてるつもりはないんですがね。そんなに怖い目になってましたか？
The three of us nodded emphatically in agreement. So, that was Akazuka-kun's Mahjong. Sorry, that was Akazuka-kun, the Mahjong prodigy. Before he goes home from his assignment, maybe I could have him go play at a high-stakes table at my place. But it's not good to get greedy.
じゃあ仕方ないや。約束です。夜の学習会はこれでお開きにしましょう。申し訳ありませんね、おやっさん。今夜はこれでお開きです。
しゃあねえな。消えて寝るわ。体力つけんと体が持たん。
お仕事が大変なんですか？
ああ、おやっさんはひなみ沢ダムの第一工区の監督さんなんです。
What?
住民とは連日小競り合いをしてますからね。
Wait a minute, he's the foreman? He's the foreman?
しんどい商売ですよ。
I might be misremembering, but wasn't the foreman the one that got dismembered? Or was it the chairman? I think it was the foreman. Because again, for me, it's been a bit. If you're watching this on YouTube, it might have not been that long. But for me, it's been a while.
来年あたり第二校区も任されちまうかもしれねえな。黒田さん、血圧上がりまくりって聞いたしよ。身が持たねえや。
おやっさんなら大丈夫でしょう。あなた、見た目よりも面の皮厚めですしね。
俺だって仏じゃねえからな。腹渡にくり返る時あるぞ。特に園崎のあの小娘は我慢がならん。あいつの顔面いつか簡単には治らんくらいに歪ませたろって思ってる。
まあまあまあ。でも給料はいいんでしょ？かなり破格の給金だって聞きましたよ。
おっとりめえだ。あんなに世知辛い職場で給料が安かったら誰も残らんよ。おクラウド、警察はいつになったら村の人間全部追っ払ってくれるんだ。国から立ち退き命令とか出てるんだろ。
ねえ、どうなってるんでしょうね。
The old man, who identified himself as the foreman of the Hinamizawa Dam project, spewed a few complaints until he felt better about it. Then he left quickly.
じゃ、行きましょう。あとは佐藤さんに任せますかね。
大石さんは帰られるんですか？
私が一緒でもお邪魔しちゃうだけでしょ。それに佐藤さんの仕事を買ったのはあなたです。私は対価を払ってませんからね。
Oishi-san was kind of sketchy, but he was strangely conscientious about some things. I felt quite a bit of a gap between myself and Oishi's generation from that part of him I didn't comprehend.
じゃあ坊主、いやジャンシ様にもう坊主なんて言えねえな。赤坂くんでよかったっけ？
はい。
じゃあ赤坂くん行こうか。
行きましょ
う。では赤坂さん、また何か困ったことがあったらいつでも頼りに来てくださいね。
So one thing I've also noticed as well, as the game has gone on, has been Oishi's like demeanor and tone primarily. For example, if we look at like Oishi-san's the way he spoke the first time we encountered him, he was a lot more professional. He was a lot more courteous. He was a lot more, I don't know, he was a lot more reserved, right? He was a lot more like Keiichi. I mean, if you need me, remember I'm here, right? Like, it's me, it's Oishi-san. You know, I'm a reliable person, so on and so forth. But as the games have gone on, his voice has been a lot more brash. Here he's drunk, so that makes sense, right? But even when he met Akasaka-kun the first time, he kind of sounded, you know, a lot more chill, a lot more laid back, a lot less, oh, I am a professional, you know, servant of the law, servant of the people. He's now like, oh, I'm just Oishi, man. I got very cold AC.
大石さんにお支払いできるような対価はもう持ってませんよ。
んじゃ、今度の勝負で少し手加減してもらえたらチャラにしますよ。
Oishi, seemingly still not having had his fill of playing around, but without overstaying his welcome, disappeared into the night. Was that the chapter? Or the halfway mark? Okay. Halfway mark. The informant, named Sato-san, had me get into his car before he set off. He favored narrow roads and made numerous short left turns.
左折法による尾行確認ですか？
詳しいな。
Checking to see if you were being tailed by making left turns was a rather classic technique. If it was just a single pursuer, you could confirm it that way. But if you were being tailed as a team, this archaic method wouldn't let you shake them. Of course, doing it anyway was better than not.
赤坂くんが何者かは旦那から何も聞いてないんだが、やっぱり警察関係かい？尾行確認に詳しいなんて、あとは探偵者くらいしか思いつかねえね。
言わなければならないものでないなら拒否したい質問ですね。
やれやれ。麻雀やってからすっかり雰囲気が大人びちまったな。 会った時のあのおどおどしたあんたはどこ行っちゃったんだよ。
You're sounding a lot like a Fed, Akasaka-kun. I wonder why. I smiled wryly. Looking back now, I had to be a little grateful for being made to play Mahjong. Thanks to that, I was able to relieve some tension. Eventually, Sato, confirming that there were no cars following us, slipped outside the city. We were on a pitch-black country road, unable to see anything besides the lights outside. The only thing I was able to hear when the hum of the car's air conditioning... the only things I was able to hear were the hum of the car's air conditioning and the chirping of insects and frogs.
旦那からひなみ沢村については多少のことは聞いてんだろ
御三家という旧家による支配や現在は園崎家が一党独裁をしているとか、そういう話ですか。
So this is probably just going to be a lore dump, but I mean that's what we paid for.
そこまで知ってるならくだらない前置きは省略していいな。
ではお願いします。犬飼大臣の孫の誘拐に鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が関与しているか否かを。
Okay, so it was a minister. Sato-san checked the rearview mirror one more time to confirm there wasn't anybody behind us before speaking.
昨夜園崎本家で親族会議が開かれたそうだ。親族会議ってのは旦那から聞いてるか？
いえ。
普通に親族会議って言ったらまあ親戚が集まってお茶でも飲むようなもんだよな。だが園崎本家の親族会議っていうのはそんなのんびりしたものってわけが違う。
A family council held by the Sonozaki main house. That would be a meeting between those who truly controlled Hinamizawa village. They wouldn't be talking about private family matters. It would be about the village as a whole. About organizing activities against the dam project. Among other things, everything would be decided there. In reality, they were deciding the fate of the village. At the head of the meeting was Oryu Sonozaki, more or less called Empress Sonozaki. As the ultimate decision maker of the clan, she was to be feared and respected. Infirm with old age, she was often unable to stand on her own, but her words carried enough weight to sway the fate of the village. It seemed that lately, she had grown weak, and on days where she wasn't feeling well, remained bedridden. Family councils that occurred while she wasn't feeling well took place with her on the floor. In the middle of a dignified Japanese-style room, still in the futon, only the upper half of her body sitting upright, a stern look on her face. That was Oryu Sonozaki. Sitting next to her was her heir, Mion Sonozaki. It's probably going to be like Tiny Mion, right? Yeah, here's both of them. So we'll have this art style for a little bit. She was still young. No, young wasn't quite the right word. She was a girl who remained childish. Her role was to merely sit beside Oryu, sometimes responding to her requests. However, she was the only one deemed worthy to succeed Oryu. She had the same hawkish eyes, enough to give pause to anybody who so much as looked at them. Much was expected of her in the future, this granddaughter of the Sonozaki's leader. And also, on either side of her sat several other important members of the remaining three families, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. First on the list for the Kimiyoshi family was of course the mayor of Hinamizawa village, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi. I think this is the first time we ever see him, and I don't know if he has a portrait in the classic style, but we'll check. He does not, so we'll keep it again with the console style for a little bit. Once again, this is what he looks like. Was not expecting for them to give him like a portrait, although his head feels a little too big, in my opinion. Like, that skull should be like 2 centimeters smaller, maybe. Anyway. And lined up beside him were several more of his direct relatives. Opposite to them sat the other of the three families, the Furude family. The Furude family was only comprised of the family of a Shinto priest, so the only ones sitting there were the said priest, his wife, and their daughter, Rika. There she is. There's like tiny Rika. Erika was doted on by many of the older folks in the village, and it seemed that Oryu was no exception. While the stress from just attending a family council was said to be enough to shorten your lifespan by 3 days, it seemed like Erika was the only one exempt from that. No matter how charged the atmosphere was around her, she paid it no mind, instead humming along as she doodled in a sketchbook. In fact, the night before, lying on her stomach, while humming and doodling, she nonchalantly tucked her legs into Oryu's futon like it was a kotatsu. All this was the 3 families, and all around the room, lined row upon row, were relatives of the Sonozaki family. The only ones who were afforded cushions to sit on, were direct relatives. The others were left to sit in the seiza position directly on the tatami mats. With Empress Sonozaki enshrined at the center, they were almost like a giant snake coiled around the room. It was decided that everybody would sit in order of their rank. The number of people from the Sonozaki family was overwhelming. The fact that the Sonozaki family held so many seats at a meeting where everything pertaining to the village was decided made determining where the balance of power was held in the 3 families clear as day. The number of members in attendance from each of the families directly reflected how much influence they had in ruling Hinamizawa.
その会議で何が話されたんですか?
And how the fuck did he find out? Sato-san, after remaining silent for a while, quietly began to speak.
マスコミ関係に支払ってる謝礼金の額が大きいんじゃないかい?
Breaking the long moment of silence was the head of the Kimiyoshi family, Ichiro Kimiyoshi. The Onigashiki Guardians wasn't a business. They were nothing more than a private organization pushing for the cancellation of the Hinamizawa Dam project, with no reliable source of income. Fundraising had always been a problem. When they first started operating, they had managed to collect a sizable amount of funds through donations, but as the conflict dragged on, that amount was steadily declining.
石を投げるだけが全ての時代じゃないさ。マスコミの力も侮れないのは重々承知しているし、今後もその力を借りたいのは同じさ。
The expressions of the people related to the Sonozaki family were sullen, as the one who suggested that they should borrow that power was the family head, Oryu Sonozaki. The battle wasn't just about force of arms. In the civilized age, there were civilized methods of fighting. Oryu suggested that creating a strategy incorporating the mass media. Oryu's foresight was spot on, and the effects of that plan, while at first unclear, slowly began to manifest. If the physical confrontation at the construction site was meant to delay progress on the dam by even 1 day, then the propaganda war using the media was aimed at attacking the dam project itself. At first, there were those who had doubts about that strategy, but there was nobody now who called those results into question. But in order to maintain those media ties, a colossal amount of money was required. As long as the amount of funds they had was abundant, things would turn out fine. It couldn't be argued that it was a massive expense, but the results spoke for themselves. But with the conflict continuing to drag on, the circumstances had changed. The head of the Sonozaki family, the one who sat at the pinnacle of the Hinamizawa's 3 families, Oryu, had suggested the idea herself, so it was already untouchable and continued to be allowed to drain from the budget. Nobody acknowledged that it should be allowed. That it should be so allowed, but nobody could say anything. That was the price of dealing with the mass media.
どうも、お嬢さん。
The only person who could object to a plan proposed by the head of the Sonozaki household herself was probably Mayor Kimiyoshi. Oryu, with a hard-to-define expression on her face, as if she had served herself from the fetters of mortal emotion, simply listened quietly to Kimiyoshi's words. But really, it was hard to tell if she was quietly listening, or didn't have the intention of listening at all.
去年機関士の値上げの理解を得るのにも随分苦労したじゃない。一度だけってことで理解を得て、また今年もってわけにはいかないよ。ねえ、古手さん。
The mayor looked at the priest and his wife from the food of the family for affirmation. The priest gave a vague expression, avoiding a prompt response. But his wife gave her answer without a second thought.
そうですね。機関士代は特に貧しい家には大きな負担になっています。
Oh.
みんな自分たちの村のためだからと耐えていますが、これ以上の値上げはやめた方がいいでしょうね。
Oh. The bulletin was, as its name implied, a bulletin published by the Onigashiki Guardians. It outlined the Alliance's activities, ideals, and resolve, but you couldn't deny the contents were rather piecemeal. The bulletin's main goal was to inform people, but rather, the bulletin's main goal wasn't to inform people, but rather was something to sell to businesses and people living in the village or connected to it, and using those sales to collect funds. In other words, it had become something of a tax. Of course, it didn't have to be said that this was one of the main sources of income for the Onigashiki Guardians. Originally, purchase was supposed to be voluntary, but in Hinamizawa, it silently became the opposite. In the neighboring town as well, it seemed that many businesses were buying copies just to avoid butting heads with the Alliance. The priest whispered to his wife not to say anything unnecessary, but that was struck down decidedly with a cold glare. Cowering from that glare, the priest shut his mouth. The priest's wife always held the power in their relationship. Ah. He's a cuck. That was because she was the one who carried the food of the bloodline. He's definitely a cuck. The priest merely married into the family. He was nothing more than somebody who adopted the name just to join the three families. He should have been able to find a spot fairly high up in the hierarchy of things, but the lack of authority in his voice meant that he had still not gained any favor. Casting a backwards glance at her rather disparate parents, Rika continued to doodle whimsically without paying them any mind. Signaled by a look from Oryu, Mion brought her ear closer to her grandmother. There, something was said to her in a quiet voice. After responding with a couple of questions, with a nod from Oryu, Mion looked around the room and conveyed her grandmother's words.
機関士の値上げもやむを得ません。
Kimiyoshi made a face like he had just bit into something unpleasant, but that expression quickly disappeared like it had never happened at all.
だけどミオンちゃん、君だって分かってると思うけど、機関士の負担は決して軽いものじゃない。ひなみ沢のすべての人間にかかる重みなんだ。あんまり負担をかけすぎれば内部から崩れることだって。
内部から崩れるのは誰ですか？
どれって別にそういう意味じゃ。
最初に崩れるのは誰かと聞いています。
Being cross-examined by a girl who still had fragments of childishness remaining within her, the words stuck in Kimiyoshi's throat as he sunk into silence. My god. Mion repeated her question once more, looking around the crowded room. Everybody refrained from making eye contact to avoid being pierced by her gaze. The words she had spoken were unarguably said in proxy for Oryu. That's why when Mion spoke them, they carried the same weight. But the look in her eyes was different. Like Oryu's, they had a hawkish gaze, strong enough that anybody looking upon them would freeze in their tracks and yield. But that gaze was, without question, one that belonged to Mion herself. As Mion would eventually inherit everything from Oryu, the day when she would stand up as a young and capable leader in her own right would come. Nobody wanted to believe otherwise for even a minute. That's why nobody even thought of Mion as just some sort of little kid.
君吉さん、機関士の値上げごときでは誰の決意も崩れませんよ。
Kimiyoshi, while grumbling a bit, made a gesture as if to say he had no objection.
マスコミ関係への出費は継続とします。その出費がさらに圧迫となるようなら、機関士の値上げもやむを得ない。
Holy fuck. Mion had rendered her judgment. Everybody bowed their heads, silently listening to her words.
園崎家当主代行、園崎美音です。我が名において以上決定し、決定異議はこれを認めず、抵抗ある場合は実力をもって排除します。
Yeah, it's little Mion. Also, hey, Billy. Thanks for stopping by. Well, I mean, as far as we know, it is little Mion. But what if it's little Shion, of all things? The formal decree was read aloud, indicating her judgment. There would be no retrial, but there was a certain authority behind those words that even a court house couldn't compare to. Yeah, it's the third sister, little peon. If she was a judge, she would have banged her gavel, signaling that the matter was settled. Mion pulled out a large bell from inside her clothes and rang it. Everybody present could only prostrate themselves before the harsh sound of the bell. Oh boy.
なんとも大時代的な親族会議ですね。
True. I mean, it is the 70s here, so I mean, I believe that was still like a thing in Japan.
あんたみたいな若いもんにはちょっと信じられないだろうけどね。
And by still a thing, I mean, I don't see it out of place. I think maybe some places were still a lot more formal. Do remember, the 70s were 50 years ago, which is, my god, it's something rough to think about. It's a very discomforting thought, I should say.
こういう古い土地にはこんなのが未だ根強く残ってるもんさ。
It was exactly as Oishi had said. The old system of the three families had vanished, and now the Sonozuki family was running things by themselves. On top of that, the rule was borderline despotic.
会議はそれで終わりですか？
Oh my god.
いや、まだ続く。先を続けるよ。
Eventually, after the ringing of the bell ceased, there was a deafening silence. Within all of that, a lone man shuffled closer to Mion and whispered something in her ear. Mion asked several questions quietly in response. When she was satisfied, she motioned for the man to leave. The man who talked to Mion was a member of a gang that her father was the leader of. That organization had the entire area of Shishibune City under its control, so it was quite well known even here. Of course, this was this was talking about the criminal underworld, so it's not like just anybody would know. But just showing a patch with the gang symbol on it was enough to resolve any disputes in the neighborhood. Mion's biological father, to Oryu, was her daughter's husband. The power of that man's gang was the driving force that controlled the dark underbelly of the Onigashiki Guardians. Okay, so then just like how the priest, you know, the cuck priest is married and shares the name in title only. You know, he's not part of the bloodline. Mion's father was also just a man that married into the family. And so that man, from his position as the next in line to control the three families, continued to coerce everybody around him with his unconventional presence. Mion exchanged a look with her father. Was it okay for her to tell... Sorry, was it okay for her... Was it okay for her... God damn it. Was it okay for her to tell what she just heard directly to Oryu? It looked like she was asking him that question. Her father gently but firmly nodded his response. Mion also nodded, then sidled up to Oryu and informed her of something. Eventually, Mion finished conveying her message, separated herself from Oryu, and fixed her posture, waiting for Oryu to signal her response. It wasn't often that Oryu showed any emotion. That's why, when she started to laugh quietly, a vague sense of uneasiness crept over everybody in the room.
そら、難儀なこともあったものよの。
The sepia grandma. Oryu was laughing so happily, Miyoshi had to hesitantly ask.
どうしたんだい、お嬢さん。
我らにとって土地が母なら、この度のダムの騒ぎは、母の命を脅かされる騒ぎっちゅうことだろうな。
Kimiyoshi, unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, looked confused. Oryu, with a wide grin on her face, turned towards everybody and addressed them in a clarion voice.
ダムの親玉の大臣がの、孫さらわれちまって、右往左往しとるっちゅう話だ。これでおあいこだの。
バカな。
So they did do it. Information on the kidnapping of Minister Inukai's grandson shouldn't have leaked from anywhere. How did they know? Even we didn't know much about the kidnapping incident. Exactly how did an antiquated household so far away from Tokyo come to know of it? Because they did it. Anyway, it was a tranquil place, but I couldn't help but have an uneasy feeling about Hinamizawa village. This dude is like an expert at Mahjong. He can read hands left and right before they even come up. And he can't come to the conclusion that the S group happened to be involved in the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. In some way, shape, or form. At some point, I had mentally filed this place away as unrelated to the incident at hand. That mental paperwork had just blown away in the wind.
どうして鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が知っているんだ。
Sato-san, unable to come up with an answer, fell into silence.
すみません。続きをお願いします。
なあ。
犬飼建設大臣のお孫さんがさらわれた。お嬢さん、それは本当かい？
Oh, it's audio. I kept reading it as audio. It's audio-san. My bad. That major of an incident was nowhere to be seen in the newspapers or on TV, but I assume that's because they're funneling money from the Onigashiki Guardians specifically to suppress those kind of stories from, going out. But in Hinamizawa, there was nothing strange about audio knowing something that the rest of the world didn't.
我らの痛みは母を失う痛みじゃの。それに値するとは思わんが、孫を失う痛み。少しは答えるといいんじゃがの。なあ。
The last question wasn't addressed to anybody in particular. It was as if she was looking for a consensus.
だが、土地と人様の子供ではわけが違う。隠すのは構わんが、怪我だけはさせたくないものだよ。こりゃ何の罪もねえ。大事にしたれな。
それはつまり鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が誘拐事件に関与しているということ。
The genius. The Mensa level IQ genius putting 2 and 2 together. Oh my fucking god, come on, dude. Do
必ずしもそうとは言えねえな。
you remember, it may not have been the Onigashiki Guardians that were involved in the kidnapping, but it was definitely the S group that is a part of the Onigashiki Guardians.
どうして当主であるお領がこれほどまではっきりと誘拐した孫の処遇について指示を出しているのに。
兄さん、これはね、園崎家のいつものことなんだよ。
いつものこと？それはどういう意味です？
Let's say there was a particular problem, one that wasn't exactly favorable for the Sonozaki family. If Oryu shows concern over that particular problem, hearing that somebody who attended the family council would be helpful. As a result, Oryu's wish would be granted. However, neither Oryu or anyone else would know who actually did it. With this kind of clever little ploy, the Sonozaki family was able to manipulate events even though they had their hands laid out on the table.
では親族会議に出席していた誰かが犯人ということですか？
あるいはそもそも犯人なんかいない可能性だってあるかな。俺自身、その万座の一同の中に誘拐犯がいるって確信を持ってるわけじゃない。ただ、自分の意見を述べただけさ。
That's really, really, really interesting. But also, it shows like how powerful of a person Oryu is. Just overall. Where, I mean, she's like a mob boss. Well, she literally is a mob boss. But I mean, if you've seen any, let's say, mob movie, if you read any mob related novel or story or whatever, you know, the boss might just be like, oh, that person's an inconvenience. What a shame. And then the next time they meet, they'll be told, oh, by the way, that inconvenience, it's been taken care of. Somebody took care of that guy. Yeah, he's out of town. You know, he went missing. Something happened to him. You know what I mean. Anyway, that always happens in all of these like situations, right? Anyway, it was an odd and unpleasantly secretive way of doing things. Were they involved or weren't they? I couldn't see the come put 2 and 2 together, please. Come on, Asakusa-kun. Come the fuck on, dude. This much, however, I could say with certainty. This kidnapping was an ironclad secret. Well, mind you, like, I might be insulting him, but for all we know, they truly were not involved, and all of this is a red herring. And this is just Ryu trying to make you, like, think, well, obviously the Sonozaki family did it, right? It's obviously them, but for all we know, it's not them. I don't know. No matter how high a position somebody was in, even they wouldn't know about it. If there was somebody who would know about it, they would be connected to to public safety. In other words, one of us. The only other options were people connected to the case itself, including the minister. There would be people affected by the incident, or the people that committed it. In any case, there was no way an old household in a place removed from Tokyo by over 6 hours of highway travel should know about it. Them knowing it all was already strange. My suspicions began to accumulate, like falling snow.
孫の誘拐についてお涼が述べたのはここまでだ。あんたの知りたかったことが含まれてりゃいいんだがな。あとは兄ちゃんの仕事だな。何のお仕事やってるか知らんけど、園崎家を相手にするなら相当の覚悟でやっとけよ。大石の旦那は怖いもの知らずだけどな。あれでも2、3回は襲われてる。最近は来てないけど、一時はオフの時も防塵ベストを着込んでたんだよな。
ええ、忠告ありがとうございます。気をつける。
標準語が流暢だよな。兄さんは東京とかの人？
え？それが何か？
Investigators were always close to danger. It was best not to divulge any information on myself.
兄さんのお仕事だけどさ、ひょっとして警視庁の公安部の人ってことある？
Are you a Fed? I couldn't remain silent here. It would be the same as it would be the same thing as admitting it.
え？まさか。
こっから旦那からもらった金の範囲には入らないんだが、兄さんとは今日宅を囲んだ仲間だからな。サービスってことで話してやるよ。
Freebie.
お寮から誘拐の話が出た後、もう一つ話題が出たんだ。
Another topic that Oryu brought up. Oryu. And right before he told me this, Sato-san asked if I was from the Metropolitan Public Safety Division. In other words, what those two things meant caused a chill to run up my spine.
そんでな、大臣の孫さらったのを調べるために東京からはるばる公安の捜査官が派遣されてくるっちゅう話だ。
公安の捜査官？
大臣の孫の誘拐な、うかつにゃ大ごとにできゃんってことで、警視庁の公安部が独自で調べとるっちゅう話だ。
Oh boy, they know.
はっ、大行なこったの。お？どうした？
Rika, who had been drawing the entire time, was completely uninterested in the conversation up until now, looked up at Oryu with an interested face as soon as the topic of public safety came up.
警視庁が来たのですか？
リカちゃまは警視庁も知ってなさるんかい。 偉いの。
誰が来たのですか？
公安のどんな奴が来よったんか。誰ぞわかる奴はおらんかいな。
Mion's father raised his hand slightly.
新米の若造が一人と聞き及んでおります。
What a way to describe someone. It's like when you meet Adam Smasher for the first time in Cyberpunk, and he turns to Evelyn and is like, "You look like a cut of fuckable meat. Are you?" And this guy's like, "I hear that it's a nice young piece of fresh meat." Like, holy fuck.
新米ほかほかなのですか？
ええ、はい。新米とか。
Oh. Mion's father smiled wryly as he answered Rika's question.
ほかほかのふかふか？
ええ。
ほかほかのふかふか？
Rika smiled with interest. Why did Rika suddenly act interested only when it came to this topic? That was the question that apparently nobody had the answer to.
リカちゃまはその男のこと何か知っているのかな？
Oh? She got a little serious. Oh boy.
知んないのですよ。
After her rather flat reply, Rika buried herself underneath Oryu's futon again. But when she buried herself there, Rika no longer started drawing again. Instead, she was making an expression like she was deep in contemplation.
どうしますか、お母さん。
Mion's father posed the question. He had the type of uncouth expression on his face indicating that, given the order, he could snuff out the problem at any time.
はるばるひなみ沢まで来よった。
Hold on. Did he say? No. Never mind.
しばらくはのんびりさせてやるのもよかろう。
泳がせろということでしょうか。
Mion's father asked in response. Oryu smiled thinly as she responded. Oryu.
ほっといたれな。が、あんまりおいたが過ぎるようやった。そん時は遠慮せんとな。なめられるのはすっきゃせんね。
なんて話があったそうだ。まさかあんたその警視庁の新米じゃないよな。
まさか。
It can't be that you're the fucking glowy, are you? The sensation of cold, bristling fear began to crawl its way up my back. This family council took place last night. In other words, yesterday. Then today, when I was dressed up as a tourist headed towards Hinamizawa, my cover was already blown? When I remembered the first person I met when I got to the bus stop, I couldn't breathe. The person at the family council who expressed interest in the man being dispatched from the Metropolitan Police, Rika Furude. And then the person who was waiting for me the whole time in the bus shelter, Rika Furude. It was an unthinkable image. No, it was a delusion. When we met at the bus shelter, did Rika already know my true identity? Did she know that I was Akaska, dispatched from the Metropolitan Police Department, and come to meet me? Then, including Mayor Kimiyoshi, every villager that I met, everybody knew but just pretended not to. Because Oryu had given instructions not to interfere. Thinking about it logically, it didn't seem possible. I met quite a number of people. If there's people that are good at acting, then there's people who are bad at hiding things. If there was that many people, then there should have been somebody among them who knew I was a Fed and couldn't hide their hostility. However, I didn't feel any presence like that. But then even still, why did Oryu tell them to leave me alone? Was it because if they were careless about it, it would only raise more suspicion? Or was it because they believed a rookie like me wouldn't be able to find anything? Oh, and there she is. Smug Rika. Again. He looks like a gremlin. Anyway. Akasuga is a coward. I recalled that strange voice which could only make me believe that Rika had been possessed. That unknown entity, no matter how you looked at it, knew my true identity from the get-go. And then, how did it warn me again? Ah, that's right. It warned me to hurry up and go back to Tokyo. Instead of the realistic worry that the Onigashiki Guardians had discovered my identity, the absurd worry brought on by the unknown girl stuck with me more. What exactly was that girl? What was the thing I would eventually regret? That mysterious girl, Rika Furude. Let's stop this. Everything I was thinking of right now was merely conjecture. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I'll report everything I heard right now to HQ and await further orders. There was no mistaking that the possibility of the Onigashiki Guardians were related to this case was there, and that the fact that my cover was blown meant I was in a precarious situation. But as everybody at HQ was already extremely busy, they might not be able to spare the support.
もういいかい？よければ好きなところまで送るよ。
あ、すみません。では、お会いした元の駅までお願いします。
A rural road where even a street light was rare. I couldn't see anything. I wasn't aware of anything but the asphalt that was lit up by the headlights. Outside of that light, was it simply darkness? Or was there something lurking there, waiting to strike? I had to think I drew the short straw here. I wanted to go back to Tokyo. For some reason, the voice of the girl warning me to go back to Tokyo still lingered in my head. Is that it? That is the end of the chapter. Unless we have a second intermission. I don't know. Nope, that's it. So new tips. The investigation runs aground, what's in a box, and something else. So let's save as usual. And then let's view the tips. These preview images are always so ominous. It's building, blood splatter, and then empty hallway. So we've got the investigation runs aground, what's in the box, and the glint in the ogre's eye. So let's start with the investigation runs aground.
昨日銀座の料亭でお会いしてね。そういう話が出たんだよ。
別室の謁見でしょう。連中、公安に干渉しすぎですよ。あまり迎合すると悪い洗礼を残しますね。
犬飼大臣は公安の動きに不快感をあらわにしているらしい。多分月曜の町議で次官からその旨の話が出るんじゃないかと思う。参ったな。
次官へは局長級に話つけてもらうしかないですよ。給料を多くもらってる人の当然の仕事ってことで。
まあそうなると局長からは絶対に大臣脅迫の物証を求められるよ
な。あの人たまにどっちの味方か分かんなくなりますね。うちらの味方しなくてどうすんのっての。
まあ多分大臣を経由しての圧力だと思ってるけどね。俺が時間室で油汗かいて時間稼ぐ間に調査進めてもらうしかないよな。全身の汗絞られて絞りかすになっちゃうかもしれないけどな。でどうなの調査の進行は。
期待してた濃厚なラインがことごとく外れて正直途方に暮れてます。
最近の大臣発言をまとめると、ひなみ沢ダムの計画の話が目立つっていう報告を聞いたけど、 それはどうなの？
目立つっていうか、本当に微細な程度の違和感ですね。たまたま県議連でのスピーチだったから時事ネタを話しただけかもしれないし。
確か地元団体が過激に抵抗してるってやつだっけ？鬼ヶ淵死守同盟。確か赤坂君に調べてもらってたよね。
僕は連中には今回の事件は起こせないと踏んでいます。ですが疑わしいところのほとんどが真っ白な以上、疑いの枠から外すわけにはいかないかもですね。赤坂君からはその可能性は否定できないとの軽い報告は受けています。
なら調べてみる価値はあるんじゃないの？しらみつぶしなんだから、残る疑わしい団体がそこ一つならやるしかないでしょ。
ま、調べる団体はそこだけじゃないんですがね。鬼ヶ淵と同じ程度のレベルで疑わしい団体になるともう相当の数になりますよ。人手も時間も残業代も全然足りません。
赤坂君からさ、もうちょっと詳しく聞いてみてよ。俺はちょっと要注意に感じるけどな、その死守同盟。
彼、村人とうまく接触できたって連絡してきました。現地の警察とも連携できてるみたいですね。
赤坂君との連絡密にしてください。それで彼からの情報が引っかかるようであれば増援を送ることもありということで。
わかりました。すいません、片岡市長。局長からお電話です。こっちに回しますか？
ああ、いい、そっち行きます。もしもし。
What's in the box? Do you believe that there are choices in life? There are many people who lament the following. If there only existed points in life where there were clear choices to make, we would be able to scrutinize those carefully and make decisions that would lead us to a better future. Every time I hear people lament as such, I cast it off as a rather trivial worry. Even if you were given a clear choice, it wouldn't be meaningful at all, and there wouldn't be any such path to a better future. Is this hard to understand? Then let's pretend that in front of you there are two strange boxes. In other words, you have two clear choices. Do you open the red box or the blue box? A lot of things would be uncertain even with that choice, wouldn't they? If you don't have the option of opening neither, then your choice boils down to the natural impulse of opening the box that holds the better results for you. Then, after examining the shape and features of each and pondering a great many things, you have to pick either the red or the blue. If this was you, which box would you open? Red or blue? Yeah, if you were to go by their traditional meanings, then red would be a dangerous, threatening color. Just for the record, I would have chosen red, probably, out of the two. However, that doesn't automatically mean that it would be calm and relaxing inside of the blue box either. In fact, it might even be that the colors are a trap, to make you wary of the red box and have you open the blue. A trap? Could it be the contents of the box aren't a reward, but rather a penalty? See, now you're at a loss. You're so conflicted over the choices between red and blue that you started wishing there was an option to open neither and just leave. But there isn't. You have to open either the red or the blue box. Oh, I forgot to say this, but if you choose one box, the other will disappear. So you never know the contents of the box you didn't open. I'll just put that rule at the end there for you. Now, why don't you choose the red box or the blue box? Well, like I said, I would have chosen the red box in this case. It's alright. You won't lose anything by picking either one. Come on now. So you, listening, try to make a mental note. If you're given two boxes in front of you, one's red and one's blue, which would you pick? So think it over. Again, I would choose the red box in this case. I don't think either one of these is highlighted or matters, I guess. Just in case. Where is it? Menu. We can save, I guess, just to show this off, whatever this might be. Oh, it doesn't let me. Okay. Well, we can load and then skip to this, it doesn't matter. Let's open the red box. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you choose, the other box disappeared. So you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now, open up the box you chose. Inside the box, there was a piece of caramel. I know you're a little disappointed. Well, that's only natural. No matter how you look at it, it looks like you drew the dud. The correct box might have had a bar of chocolate in it for all you know. No, in fact, something incredible like a pair of tickets to Hawaii might have been there. But even if you wanted to verify that, the other box has already disappeared. There is no way you can check now. But if you think about it from an optimistic point of view, just maybe the other box was empty, and this box was the winner. And being satisfied, or perhaps not, with such a cheap price, you pop it into your mouth and start chewing it happily. So what do you think in the end? If you were given a second chance, would you try to open the other box? But unfortunately, the chance to choose between the red box and the blue box has come and gone, never to be seen again. Realistically, in this case, I would not be upset. Would I... sorry, if I were given a second chance, would I try to open the other box? I would probably still not choose it. Because it could be literally anything. It could be bad, who knows? I could open it up and it explodes. I could open it up and it could be, you know, a winning lottery ticket. It doesn't matter at this point, because I've already chosen the red box. The chance to change your selection will never come. Don't your parents often say every choice you make in life only happens once, so choose carefully? See? Choices aren't that great after all. Aren't you a little disillusioned now? Well, we could load and check what's in the content of the blue box. Or we can leave that as like speculation. Maybe in your playthrough, you will choose the blue box. Maybe when you go through chapter 4 again later on in the future as you try to piece together the mystery, you'll come to terms with your own decision and choose the blue box instead. But for now, the glint into the ogre's eye.
Eh, はい。それで、お通夜が明日の午後6時からになりまして、告別式があさってのお昼、12時から13時までになりまして、会場は沖宮セレモニーホールになります。
すっか。池澤助役のお孫さんの葬式じゃ、何にも挨拶なしってわけにもいかんね。みよ、代わりに出てえな。
うん、了解。喪服で行く？香典はいくらくらい？
学校の服でえんね。前のボタンちゃんと留めてくんねよ。香典は5万。10万包んだれな。世話になったかんな。
Mion quietly whistled in awe at the exorbitant amount of money her grandmother was offering.
池澤さんはな、沖宮の事務所長だった頃からしっかりした人だったんね。役人は挨拶って言っても絶対に玄関までしか来ん。でもな、池澤さんはわしがお茶を勧めるといっつも上がってくれて、ちゃんと話を聞いてくれた。人の話を最後まで聞く。本当に鏡みたいな人だったんね。
The two guests made a show of nodding, making it clear that they were paying attention as Oryu reminisced. The sight of them trying not to get on Oryu's bad side was humorous enough to elicit laughter from Mion occasionally.
で、池澤助役のお孫さんはいくつで亡くなったんね。
11歳だそうで。
Oryu closed her eyes and shook her head lightly, lamenting the loss of such a young life.
確か孫は一人だ言うてんな。
She turns to Mion. Mion,
かわいそうにな。
make it 110,000.
親より先に死ぬほどの親不孝はあるめな。
ばっちゃんも他人には優しいね。あたしやシオンが死んだら同じように悲しんでくれる？
アホ抜かすんでね。演技でもねすったなんと。しゃらーまったく。
Having got the reaction she expected, Mion cackled. The two guests, unsure if they were supposed to laugh along, instead forced awkward smiles.
それでは本日は失礼いたします。では明日の夕方5時にお迎えに参りますんで、よろしくお願いいたします。ではごめんくださいませ。
After bowing their heads repeatedly, the guests left by the front door. Mion saw them off, waving her little hand goodbye.
帰ったよ。お役人もばっちゃんのご機嫌伺いに大変だね。不法なんか電話でいいと思うのにね。
Well, it was true that Oryu Sonozaki... Sorry. Well, it was true that Oryu Sonozaki was a central person for both her relatives and the residents of Hinamizawa village as a whole. As a voting bloc, they numbered in the several thousands. It wasn't hard to imagine the mayor would try to pander to her. Unlike Mion, however, Oryu was looking up longingly at the sky from the veranda.
どうしたの？猛録した？
Are you going senile?
誰のお孫さんであろうと気の毒だのう思ったんよ。
It's pretty sad. Saying that, she let out a deep sigh. Mion was let down, as normally her grandmother would have scolded her for her attitude.
ミオ、これ例の大臣の孫、さらわれてからどのくらいになる？
4日かな。
Kana. Oryu let out another deep sigh.
旧敵の孫とはいえ気の毒だな。
そう。
十分気はせいたんろ。そろそろ終わりにしちゃれな。
The playful expression that drained from Mion's face, leaving behind a stern one, and then, as if to ascertain Oryu's will, looked into her eyes. Oryu, expressing her intention with only those eyes, looked back into Mion's.
お茶が欲しんで頼んでな。さっきのチョコレートも食べといね。
Mion gave a small nod, then turned around.
シミコさん、いますか？ばっちゃんに紅茶入れてあげてください。
And the chocolate. Don't forget the chocolate, Mion. Mion, after confirming she'd been heard, picked up her phone and began dialing.
あ、もしもし？うちのお父さん、います。
Didn't mean to cut her off. Mion forgot the chocolate. Anyway. That was... What, chapter 3? Yeah, that was chapter 3. What an interesting chapter this was. But for now, I think this is a good stopping point for tonight.